Good evening all, and welcome to tonight's TI Technology webinar hosted by Texas Instruments Australia. We are really excited to bring you Get Ahead of the Game, General and Further Mathematics with the TI-Nspire CAS technology. And with us tonight are two fantastic maths educators and TI technology users, Mr. Craig Brown and Ms. Daniela Draskovic. Good evening, both of you.
Hello, everybody.
And how are you, Daniela? Well, we've lost her for a minute, but that's okay. Luckily for us, Daniela's coming on in the second half, so we will crack on with Craig, and we'll go from there. As you can see, Craig is an experienced teacher of mathematics with a deep knowledge of using TI technology, which he is always willing to share with others. I know that firsthand. He also knows how that applies in a classroom context, being a classroom teacher, where he has experienced the benefits to his teaching and the understanding of students of using TI technology. Craig, I expect you are using that today, no doubt.
Absolutely, John.
Good man. I wouldn't expect you to say otherwise for me, Craig. So, Craig, I'll pass over to you. And we are looking forward to seeing what you're going to tell us about with general and further mathematics using the CAS technology on the TI-Nspire.
Okay, thanks for joining us, everybody. What I am hopefully going to show you tonight is basically how to navigate our way around the calculator and give you some tips on how to save files and a few other key ingredients in being able to use the calculator efficiently. Okay, so as you can see, we're looking at the home screen. I've turned the software on, or the same as turning your calculator on, by pressing the on button, which you can see highlighted red, and we get the home screen here. The main section that I wish to concentrate on tonight is this section of the screen here that I'm circling with the mouse. It's the document management section of the calculator. Now, this could possibly look a little bit different depending if you've actually got the most recent software versions. So particularly for the CX calculator, or if you like, the dark colored calculator, you'd want to have operating system 4.5.2.8 basically to be looking at a screen similar to what I'm looking at the moment. And for the new CX CAS II, it's basically the most recent operating system will give you that. All right, so what I'm going to do first of all is create our first document by pressing number 1, new. Now, what I would suggest you do, that whenever we notice that when we have choices to make here, as far as using the calculator is concerned, I'd be pressing the numbers that correspond here. So I'm going to press number 1, the new document. There we go. And so we get the next menu where I'm going to be able to make a whole series of choices here. And so I'm going to first of all add a calculator application. And so I hit choose number 1 for that. And so I've added a calculator application to the first page of this document. Notice the numbering up here, 1.1. The first one represents problem 1. Problem 1 at the moment is made up of 1 page, and that 1 page happens to be storing this calculator application that I've just opened up. Now, for further maths and general maths, there are a couple of settings that I want to discuss with you that I would say are the go-to settings, that once you make these settings, you shouldn't actually have to change them. To change these settings, click on the power indicator or the battery indicator that shows green if your calculator is fully charged. If you click on it, we get another menu that pops up for us. And then if we choose number 2, document settings, now we've got a whole lot of options available to us, but I'm suggesting for further maths, we concentrate on 2, maybe 3 of these settings. The first one here is calculation mode. As you can see, mine at the moment is actually set on auto. What I'll do is actually change that to approximate. I can't think of any circumstances where, in fact, we need any other format of calculation as far as answers are concerned. The approximate mode just gives us decimal answers, decimal approximations, if you like, for everything that we do. And for further and general maths, I can't think of any other instances where that would not be the case. So approximate is the way to go. There's every chance that a lot of your calculators might be actually set on float 6. Float 6 is actually the default setting for the calculator. I would suggest that you have that on float. Float 6 can actually mean you can run into issues in terms of writing answers down to the correct precision when it comes to financial maths. And so if you choose again the right arrow key, you might have been set on float 6. Then if I choose that arrow key and choose float, then that again will make the relevant change. And then the last thing that possibly those of you who are studying geometry and trig modules, you would want to make sure that your calculator is set on degrees for the angle there. And so, but if you don't actually study that with those modules, you don't really have to worry about that setting. If you press OK, we've now actually got our settings available to us. Notice up here, I've got the DEG degree mode showing. On the new CAS CX II calculators, if you're actually studying methods as well as further, you might wish to actually change that mode. And you can easily do that by just clicking DEG and it'll change back to RAD. But I don't want to do that because I'm doing further maths tonight, so I'm going to change that back to DEG.
Craig.
And so that's probably keeping that in mind if you've got the new CX2 calculator. John.
Hello, buddy. Can you answer a question? Somebody just asked, what is the difference between having float 6 compared to float 12?
Yeah, float 6, it reverts to six figures. In the 6 figures before it actually starts reverting to scientific notation or starts rounding off. So if you're looking at financial maths where things are in hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then want to actually round off to the nearest cent, float 6 won't actually give you that particular option. Float 12 will give you more, better, if you like, degree of accuracy. But float, the calculator makes its own mind up a little bit. If something just rounds off to 3 decimal places, it's just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Hi everyone, Daniela here. It's a funny word, float. I know my students always were confused by it, so thanks for clarifying.
You there?
Hello?
Yeah, great, Craig. Hello. That's great.
Oh, we're right to go? Good on you.
Yes.
All right. Okie dokie. So, next thing is, I'm on the calculator screen here, so let's actually do some calculations. So, because of the fact I've set up my float, the answer mode that I have in terms of approximation, if I go 1 divided by 2 for a start and press enter, you can see that the answer is going to be expressed as a decimal answer. Now, if I choose pi, so if I hit the button here for pi, and you can see there's pi already highlighted. If I press enter and then press enter again, it will display pi in as a decimal approximation. Having said that, though, if I was actually going to need to use pi, I probably wouldn't go through that button sequence. There is a shortcut for pi, and that is to actually type in PI. Did you notice how the font changed from italics to, if you like, the TI, if you like, font? That italic changed into this font means that pi, the calculator recognises PI. If I press enter, there it is again. Now, a really useful tool that people might want to make use of is actually the round function as far as further maths is concerned. So you could actually find this in the catalog button, under the catalog button. So if I choose, I'll press the catalog button and choose option number 1. Now, everything in the catalog is actually in alphabetical order. So if I choose R for round for a start, and then what I can do is just go down until I find, so I'm just hitting the arrow button down here on the right-hand side until I find round. There it is there. So if I press enter or click on it, up comes round. Well, now what I think I'll do is I'll round the pi off. So I'm going to choose that previous answer and press enter. I'm now going to go comma, and maybe I'm going to round pi to 2 decimal places. Now notice that the bracket is in grey here, so I'm in the practice of actually closing the brackets off, but the calculator doesn't necessarily require it, but I just like doing it. Press enter. Now you'll see pi's been rounded off to 2 decimal places.
Craig?
What you could do, yes, John?
Can we just increase the size of the keyboard? People can see the display really clearly, but they'd like to know what sort of button presses that you're pressing as well.
Okay, I can do that. How does that look?
Yeah, yep, perfect.
Is that better?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, great, thanks.
And so what we could do, instead of going through the catalog menu, you could just actually type in the word round. So R-O-U-U-N. Now, when I hit D, have a look what happens to the font again. There's D. Open up my brackets, and I can hit the up arrow key again and choose pi. Press enter. Close my brackets and press enter. Oops, I've made a mistake. You'll notice that, in fact, I didn't put the comma in. So I think I'll go and highlight what I entered this time and press enter. This time I'll put the comma. So comma, let's go 4 decimal places this time and press enter. And you can see now that's been rounded off to 4 decimal places. So there's a few skills there that you might want to take notice. If I want to highlight something I've either just calculated or have previously entered into the calculator, it's a matter of using the up arrow key to highlight that on the calculator application. Another useful part that we should probably explore is the use of solve on the calculator. So if I press menu, now as soon as I press menu, I've got heaps of choices to make again. So far as using the calculator is concerned, press number 3 for algebra, and then number 1 for solve. So that allows me now to solve some equations. So I can type in something like 2x plus 8 equals 53. I now go comma x. I've got to tell the calculator what variable I am solving for. I then press bracket and press enter. I get the answer. Those doing the graphs and relations module might find this particularly useful if you actually want to rearrange a linear graph into y equals mx plus c form. And so if I show an example of how to do that using solve, so we press menu, number 3 again for algebra, number 1 for solve. So let's rearrange 2x plus 4y equals 10, comma. Now I want to actually solve for y because I want to make y the subject of the formula. So go comma y this time, close my bracket and press enter, and it will do it for you. But there it is rearranged. Not strictly in terms of y equals mx plus c form, no, but that can be fixed. Menu, algebra. This time I'm going to expand. And then if I hit the up arrow key, press enter because I want to use that answer, and press enter. There it is. Job done. So there's the intercept there, and there's the gradient, negative 0.5x plus 2.5.
That's a nice little feature as well, isn't it, Craig, that?
It is a nice little feature. That's something that often you might be asked to do from a question point of view, or people prefer to see it in that form. So
yep.
nice little feature. What I've also wanted to point out that I've already shown the pie menu here. But any of these buttons that pop out a fly out menu like this, if you, for instance, have popped this out and I've got pie, whoops, I want to do that again, press enter. I'm going to hit the pie button and not do anything for a second. I might need the degree symbol. So if I just keep hitting the pie button, that allows me to quickly choose whichever option I want out of that fly out menu. So that's worthwhile considering or remembering. And that's all to say the same in a few other areas of the calculator. So if I demonstrate that, I'm going to hit escape because I don't really want to do that, or hit escape to undo that or go backwards. If I do the same thing on the trig button, for those of you doing trig, if I keep hitting the trig button, I can make those choices that I need for sine, cos, or tan, or for that matter, inverse sine, inverse cos, or inverse tan. So that's something to remember, because sometimes it's a bit fiddly using the mouse tracker. So just hitting the button, sometimes that's a bit of a preference for people.
And Craig, I just might add something that you said, that hitting the escape button, just to clarify again, if you get lost in a whole series of menus and you don't know where you are and you want to go back, just keep hitting the escape button until you're back to the main page. Good
old escape, or if you see, in fact, above it, the escape, you've got the blue undo. That means, undo, just like in Word and other software applications. So either escape or control, undo, will get us back to where we need to be to continue on with what we're doing.
Craig, somebody just asked how can you do significant figures like you can do rounding when you use float?
No, you can't, unfortunately. Sorry. Yes, that's something we're going to have to, we still have to learn. So rounding is nice. We've got the solution to be able to round off properly. Significant figures isn't, though. All right.
And I don't think actually any technology allows that to happen because of the sort of power that's needed behind it, but also sort of even in exams and tests. I think it's not saying that even would be on a wish list that we could actually put on the OS. I don't think, would it be?
Sorry, mate. I missed some of that.
Well, I was saying that obviously we know that the OS on your handheld can get updated, and we know there's great feedback between teachers and the developers of TI, the calculators, and we know that our voice in Australia is heard quite a lot with those updated OS. But I'm not even sure whether that even would be allowed to be added to be significant figures. Yeah,
no, I'm not sure either.
I don't think that it would be actually, because there's that's a skill that they test if you can do that manually.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Right, sorry, Craig, butting in.
All good. No, another useful button that we better perhaps consider looking is the percentage, how to use the percentage key. So if I want to work out 25% of 200, I'm going to type in 25. And then to find the percentage symbol, if we hit this button here, the question mark button, as you see there, now have a look where the percentage is located to the far right. So if I keep hitting the percentage button, there it is. So I press enter and then just type in 200 and press enter. It works out 25% of 200. So people might think that would be a nice little thing to be able to use. Now, I've done some work here. I might want to actually save my file before I move on. So I'm going to show you how to actually save this. I'm going to press Control, Save, and see how it's actually saving in my documents. That's what we want. but I'm going to actually save this into a folder. So I'm going to create a new folder under my documents. So I'm going to choose that. See that on there? It says new folder when you actually hover over it. And I'm going to call this Craig. I'm just going to use my initials, CB webinar. So I'll just use WEB for short. B comes after A. There we are. I'm going to press enter. It is now, that folder's created. So now I'm going to save this file into that folder that I've created now, CB web. And so I'm going to call this file 1. So FILE1. That'll do. Press save. And I've just saved my work. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I might actually come back to this. Okay.
Much the same way as you would do on a computer.
It's basically exactly the same way, Danielle. It's spot on there. Good point. And it's probably worthwhile considering saving your work, particularly when you want to prepare for SACs and, for that matter, the exams at the end of the year. If you've created some resources that you know you can reuse over and over again, don't reinvent the wheel. Have those resources ready to go for your assessments. I think that's actually a fairly important tip in terms of saving time on the exams and SACs. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to create a new problem because I've had enough of this problem, and I actually want to show you some other features of this software. So I'm going to go press Doc, number 4. Oops, I'm going to hit, I made a mistake, so I'm going to hit Escape to go backwards. I'm going to hit number 4, which is Insert, and number 1, which is Problem. Now, in this problem, I'm going to add a Lists and Spreadsheets application. Here it is. And so I'm going to enter in some data. Now, before I actually do this, note the numbering now, the change of numbering. I've gone from problem 1 to problem 2. And at the moment, problem still has only got the 1 page open, and it's on that page we've got a Lists and Spreadsheets application. So I'm going to call this Test Scores, or just Test will do, TEST. Press Enter, or I'm going to click down on the first cell and I'm going to type in some data. So 25, 36, better go to 98% now, 87, 89, someone's got 100%, and 9%. Okay, I've typed in some test scores. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to calculate those. I'm going to calculate some univariate statistics on those scores. I'm going to first of all do it in here on the List and Spreadsheets page. So if I press Menu, then number 4 is Statistics. Number 1 is Stat Calculations. Notice I'm actually choosing in the numbering that's referring to the options. Number 1 is One Variable Statistics. Press OK. And what am I going to, after, first of all, with this X1 list, choose the variable. So I hit on that right pointing arrow and choose Test, because that's the variable I've created. Press OK, and here are all the statistics being calculated there for me, as you can see there. And if I press some shortcuts here, if I press Control 7, will take me all the way up to the top of the results, and Control 1 will take me all the way down to the bottom of the results. If I want to go up a screen at a time, Control 9 takes me up a screen at a time, and Control 3 takes me down a screen at a time. Now what I'm going to do, if I go up to the top, like so, let's have a look here. The mean is 72. Let's actually concentrate on that for a minute. I'm now going to make some changes. I'm going to add, let's pretend I've missed a couple of test scores. I've checked my data because I'm doing a test and I've missed 2 scores, 96, enter. And I don't know if you've taken notice on the right-hand side, when I press enter, I'm going to go 87, press enter. You'll notice that these, when I pressed enter, these scores, or the results I should say, have been automatically updated. That's a nice feature. And because of this feature of the software, this is why it's important that we learn to save our resources so we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel all the time. Because it's something that can be readily used from day to day, test to test, exam to exam. Okay, what I could do instead is do the same thing on calculator page. So I'm going to now press Control I to insert another application on another page. So I'm going to now insert a calculator application, and I will do this essentially the same thing on a calculator page. So I'm going to go Menu, Statistics, Stat Calculations, One Variable Statistics, and press OK for the number of lists. Choose the variable test again. Press OK, and there we have it, same results. The downside of this, though, is the fact that these aren't live results. If I make a change over here, I'm going to make one more change, go down to the bottom, make that 100, press enter, these change, but these don't. But that can be easily fixed. If I choose the up arrow key, press enter, and press enter again, now they're updated. Okay.
Craig?
Must be getting close to time, are we, John?
Yeah, I was just about to say, with the widgets, I know you wanted to show some widgets and you're knowledgeable and quite passionate about the widgets. So I was just thinking that we could actually add those to the webinar brief and the email that gets sent out, but also to the document on YouTube so that people can access how they can look at some widgets too. But I think we're going to have to share across to Daniela now, if that's okay with you.
Just before you share to my screen, John, Craig, I just wanted to clarify one thing that comes up a lot with students. If you go back to your list and spreadsheet page, please.
Yes.
A lot of the time students get confused with that first row where you wrote the test, the name of the variable, and also the one underneath with next to the equal sign.
That's the formula bar.
So yes, if you can just talk about that.
Yeah, this first row here, this is whenever we're creating variables, it's this first row here where I've got test. That's where we actually want to create or name the variables. In here, this is a bit like Excel. If anyone has actually used Excel before, this is where we actually type in formulas or do any maths that's associated with, or a lot of the maths at least, that's corresponding to each of these columns in this row here. So as you can see in that row there, that's if you like a calculator function that's been entered into that row automatically by the calculator to generate all those results. Right. So if we want to actually name variables, must be done in the top up here, top row. And probably last thing before we move on, notice the difference in the numbering here too. The second 2 here is referring to the second page of this problem 2, which happens to be a calculator application on that page. I think it's time to hand over to you, Daniela.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I will introduce you, Daniela, because I know that earlier we didn't get a chance to actually introduce you and hear you. You were just sort of logging in there. So here we are. There's Daniela. Thanks for joining us, Daniela, this evening. I know that you are a passionate educator who utilizes these technology in your teaching, and that your learner can visualize various concepts in a more dynamic manner. And I know that when you're not working for the Mathematical Association of Victoria, you like to share your passion for technology and knowledge of TI Telco with others like we are tonight. So thanks for doing that for us, and I'm looking forward to learning a few new tips and tricks from you as well. So thank you. All over to you.
Thanks, John. Yes, I am very much into my technology and TI-Nspire, and I was trying to teach my son something on it the other day, and then my husband looked at me and said, Daniela, he's 2. So, yeah, he's too keen.
You can never be too young, but we can see your screen nice and clear, so it's all over to you.
All right, thank you. So what I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail, touching on what Craig said, is the use of problems and pages within them to help you with and saving those documents, so to help you organize your learning. So what we're going to do first is we're going to open up just a calculator page. We'll go over a few things in the calculator page. So currently, if you can see on the top of the tab there, we're in problem 1, page 1. And what we're going to practice here is just a few little tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. So the first thing is my calculator is currently in the default settings. So if I type in something like 27 divided by 19, it automatically gives me the exact answer. There's a couple of ways without changing calculator settings that you can get that into an approximate answer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the up arrow and then up again, select that, and go Control Enter, which will give me the approximate equals answer, so the approximate answer to that. Another little handy tip for you is if you're typing in 27 divided by 19, and if you just put in a dot there, it'll automatically give you the approximate answer, which is really nice and nifty. I just learned that, I think, last year for the first time. I didn't know about that one. And what we're going to do now is we're going to store that number as the variable A. So there's a few different ways you can do that. One way is if we just go up to that, and then click Control and var for variable, and up, you can see above it there is STO store. It gives you this arrow, and then you get to store that number into whatever variable you like. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose A, press Enter. So now if I write A, you can see that the A is bold, which means that the calculator has recognized that it's a stored variable. And if I go Enter from there, it shoots out the number 27 over 19. Because this is an algebra system as well, we can multiply that by another variable. So, you know, if we're multiplying A times B in mathematics, and we just tend to write AB like that. However, TI-Nspire doesn't really recognize that as A times B. It just considers it a new variable called AB. It just doesn't understand that that's two separate variables, because why couldn't you name a variable something longer? So what we have to do if we're multiplying two different variables together is actually multiply them with the times multiplication symbol between them, as you can see there. So you can see that because I haven't defined B, it's not bold. Because I've defined A, it's bold. If I hit Enter, it will just represent it in that way, 27B over 19. I can also do something like 2A. And in this instance, I don't have to put the multiplication sign between them because 2 is just a number. And there's the answer for 2 times A. All right, so now that we have stored a variable A, I want to also show you how you could delete that variable if you want to, or delete any of the variables. So what we're going to do is hit the menu button and go into Actions, and you can select Delete Variable here. Or if you have entered several variables and you want to delete them all, you can just clear A to Z. So I'm just going to keep it for now. I won't delete it just yet. I'll just escape, and I'm out of that menu. Now I want to show you how to define a function within this calculator page. So to define a function, we go to Menu and Actions. And then under Actions, there's the number 1, which is Define. And I'm going to define a function f of x. So I have to write f and open bracket, close bracket, x, and equals. And I'm going to use my variable, my previously defined variable a times x plus enter. So thank you, TI-Nspire. You said done, gives me a bit of reassurance that I've done the right thing. So there's no error message. I have defined the function f of x. Okay, so that's a linear function right there. Now, you can actually substitute in values of x directly here. So if I wanted to know what the function would equal if x was 1, for instance, all I have to do is go f, see that f is involved because the calculator recognizes the function named f of 1, and there's the answer right there. So it substituted the value of x in for me, which is really handy if you have really complex polynomials and you don't have to do it yourself. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to stay within the same problem, but we're going to insert a new page, and we're going to insert a notes page. There's a couple of ways to do this. You could go to Document, Insert, and Page, but also you can see here that it's telling me that there's a shortcut for this. So I can also just click Control-I, and that will do the same thing. Or if I just go Escape, Control and Document up here, it gives you a new page. Can you see that on the blue writing tells you new page? So we're going to add a note page. And up here, we're still within the same problem because it's problem 1. That's the first number, and then page 2. All right. So now the beauty of a notes page, you'll see very quickly, but as the name implies, you can actually write notes to yourself, which comes in handy when you're looking back over your work if you've saved your file and you want to know what you've done. So for this one, I'm just going to type in a heading, Quadratic, and I'm typing really quickly because I'm using the software and not the handheld. So I know that this might be a bit slower if you're using a handheld. I really encourage you, if you're at home and working on problems, to try using the software. It's much faster, much more efficient, and then you can, as I'll show you later, transfer those files onto your handheld and use them in class. So now I've written my heading, I want to actually put in some mathematics. Now, if you just start typing here, 5, 2, it does nothing because we're not in a maths box, we're in a notes page. So it's treating it just like normal text. So what we want to do here is add a maths box. So the shortcut for that, we could do Menu, Action, Insert math box, or the shortcut which I always use is Control-M. And that gives you a little box like that outlined in red, and that means that you can now type in mathematical things and it will do the calculation. All right, so I'm going to now go ahead and define a quadratic function. Menu. And what we can also do is we could go through the menu, or you can just type in, if you're on your software on your computer, it might be easy just to type in define. And I'm going to define a function in terms of x, and it's going to be quadratic. So this might come in handy from all the way from year 10 to into methods and specialist. And there we go. see how it's changed the writing color to blue. That's because it's maths. Blue here by default, but I think you can change that as well in the format. And I'm going to show you a few different ways to factorize this function. So to get the X intercepts, we can factorize it. So I'm going to go into menu. I'm going to do some calculations, and I'm going to do some algebraic calculations. So I've gone into algebra, and I'm going to click on number 2, which is factor. And I'm going to factor my function f of x, and I want to factor. I can't just leave it as is, because it always wants me to put in what variable is it in terms of, in respect to x. So f of x, x. And there we go. I've got my factorized quadratic. Another way is to find X intercepts. You can go to menu, calculations, algebra. You've got zeros there. So zeros does the same thing. It doesn't factorize. It just tells you what the X intercepts be. So there you go. You've got +1 and +4. And you can also use the solve function that Craig was talking about earlier. So menu, calculation, algebra. Whoops, I made a mistake. I was just going to delete that. I'm just going to actually type it myself. Save some time. Solve when f of x and the function equals 0. So when the y value, for lack of a better word, equals 0, or when the function equals 0, what are my x values? And it tells me the same thing. So that's basically giving me the same information in 3 different ways. All right, and I can do a similar kind of analysis of that quadratic with completing the square, which will change that quadratic into turning point form, which helps me locate the turning point. So delete that math box and write in a note for myself that I'm now getting my function in turning point form. So I'm just giving myself some notes so that I can look back over my work and know really quickly what I've done. So I'm going to insert a maths box. Control M was the shortcut there. And I'm going to go menu, calculations, algebra, complete the square, number 5 here. I'm going to compare for function x in terms of x. And there we go. There's our quadratic in turning point. So I know these kind of questions come up a lot in Year 10 and Year 11 methods, Year 12 Unit 1 and 2 methods, and Unit 3 and 4 methods. So it's really handy to have a notes page like this ready to go, because the beauty of a notes page, unlike a general kind of calculator page, is that I can go in and edit this quadratic. And let's say I've got a quadratic that's minus 5x plus 6. And I can press enter and it changes everything below it. So it updates, which the calculator page doesn't do. And I think yeah.
I reckon is a great place in which to finish, I'm afraid, Danielle. I know that we've all got a bit more that we could actually show at this point.
Right. Okay.
And was there anything else just before we start wrapping it up that you feel that you would like to share? Like I said, if people want to have any questions they want to actually ask, they can perhaps put them more in the chat window. We've added a few more links to different things, different webinars that can be found, and I will give a link to the YouTube channel. But is there anything else, Danielle, at the moment?
I'd just like to show them how to then transfer this onto the handheld. Let's say they've built this up on the software they're using at home, how they can then transfer it onto the handheld. Is that something that we have time for?
If you can just show it very quickly, that'd be great, yeah.
Okay, sure. So once you save this file somewhere, doesn't matter, I won't go through the saving, you've already seen it with Craig, you can go up into the content bar at the top left, and you can find that file. Let's say it's this one. Find it under the TI-Nspire tab, and you can drag it into your handheld. Down here on the left, I've got TI-Nspire handheld. You can drag that file into it. Oh, I've already got it in there. Just replace it, and there you go. And then you can access it in class. So I think that's really handy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's like you said, what you want to do is be able to marry the two together, both the handheld and when you've got the software which you get given when you have the calculator, you can actually access that as well. So sorry to cut you off there, Daniela, and thank you very much for explaining those few things. And as we said, that there can be some more questions asked through the blog. So thank you very much indeed. Going live just today, we now have a TI student blog that can be accessed via the WordPress website, and there is the link to that as well. So please follow that and link to that as well, because there'll be plenty of stuff going there specifically for students rather than just for teachers in the classroom. So that is me and Daniela and Craig done. Guys, thank you very much for sharing some of your knowledge tonight. I really appreciate it, and a tough gig in only 45 minutes, so thank you.